The movie begins high above the ocean where a U.S. Navy jet is patrolling the skies near a massive naval fleet. The pilot is conducting a routine flight, but below him, the ocean is behaving strangely. A sudden, violent magnetic force or pressure wave erupts from the water. The jet is caught in the invisible turbulence, losing control. It careens dangerously close to a Navy aircraft carrier. The pilot fights with the controls, but the jet's internal systems are fried. Realizing he can't save the plane, he ejects at the last second. His parachute opens and he drifts away, but the jet crashes directly onto the deck of the aircraft. Carrier in a fiery explosion, Navy personnel rush to rescue the pilot from the water. However, when they pull him out, he is already dead with burning wounds. Before they can process this, a massive underwater explosion rocks the sea. The rescue boat is capsized by the shockwave, and the sailors are thrown into the water. On the aircraft carrier, the surviving crew is in chaos. They bring the bodies on board and try to understand what is happening. An officer is shown a digital map of the region. The data show that the entire Arabian tectonic plate is shifting violently. This movement is causing extreme temperature drops. Within moments, the ocean's surface temperature rises rapidly, and the water begins to boiling rapidly. The massive aircraft carrier, trapped in the rising, boiling water and turbulent waters, tilts and capsizes. The entire ship, along with its crew, sinks beneath the waves as the ocean floor cracks open, releasing heating thermal energy. We then cut to a much warmer setting, Giza, Egypt. An American family is enjoying a vacation, visiting the Great Pyramids. The family consists of Jack, his wife Diane, their daughter Amber, and their young son Dylan. They are accompanied by a local tour guide named Tariq. The family's having a great time, soaking in the history and the sun. They return to their hotel in high spirits, ready to relax. However, as they walk through the lobby toward their rooms, the ground begins to shake. At first, it feels like a minor tremor, but it quickly escalates into a violent earthquake. The walls crack and debris begins to fall. The hotel structure gives way, collapsing around them. Jack and his family manage to escape the building just in time. They run out into the streets, only to see a scene of total destruction. Hotel after hotel crumbles to the ground. The entire city of Giza is being leveled by the quake. In minutes, the bustling tourist destination turns into a ruin. Jack's family and Tariq navigate through the rubble, dodging falling debris. They find a working TV in a wrecked building. Diane, listening to the reports, explains to Jack what is happening. The movement of the Arabian tectonic plate is tearing the region apart, causing these massive earthquakes. Over a loudspeaker, a government announcement blares, instructing all survivors to head to the U.S. Embassy for evacuation. Jack wants to follow the instructions, but Tariq stops him. Tariq, being a local, knows the city layout better. He points into the distance. The U.S. Embassy has been completely destroyed. The government's message is outdated or false. Going there would be a death sentence. Suddenly, the weather shifts drastically. Dark clouds roll in, and a torrential rainstorm begins. It isn't just rain. The temperature is dropping rapidly. Realizing they need to leave the area immediately, the family decides to head for the airport. They manage to flag down a local car driver who agrees to take them as they drive toward the airport. The rain stops as abruptly as it started, but it is replaced by something far worse: snow. In the middle of the desert, heavy snow begins to fall. Panic sets in across the region as people realize the climate is changing instantly. The car gets close to the airport, but the road is blocked by traffic. The driver can go no further. Jack and his family get out and decide to walk the rest of the way. As they trek through the snow towards the runway, they see a glimmer of hope. A large transport plane is taking off. They watch it ascend, praying it signals a way out. But the sudden atmospheric freeze is too much for the aircraft. The engines fail and the plane stalls in midair. It crashes back down to the earth in a ball of fire, destroying any hope of flying out. Diane, thinking quickly, suggests they head to the train station, and they all know it's their last hope for mass transit out of the disaster zone. They rush to the station and manage to jump onto a moving train just in time. However, the train is packed, and they are forced to stand on the exterior platform. This proves to be a fatal mistake. As the train speeds along the tracks, it hits a rough patch. Dylan, the youngest, loses his grip on the railing. He slips and falls off the moving train. Amber screams and jumps off after him. Tariq, the guide, jumps as well to help them. Seeing their children left behind, Jack and Diane have no choice. They leap from the train, tumbling onto the snowy ground. The train speeds away, leaving the family stranded in the freezing desert with no transport. Jack is devastated. They have lost their ride and are now exposed to the elements. But Tariq offers a new plan. He says his father sent him coordinates to a location where he can pick them up with a plane. If they can reach the highway intersection in time, they might be saved. They trudge through the snow to the highway. Miraculously, a plane appears in the sky. It lands, and Tariq's father's men ushers them inside. They take off, finally feeling safe, but nature's relentless. They fly straight into a massive snowstorm. The temperature at that altitude is lethal. The plane's systems begin to freeze. The propellers ice over and stop spinning. The pilots struggle to maintain control, but the plane starts to lose altitude. They have to make an emergency landing. Below them is a river. The water is freezing over rapidly. The pilot skillfully glides the plane down, landing on the newly formed ice of the river. The landing is rough, but successful. However, the danger isn't over. The ice is thin and unstable. As the heavy plane settles, the ice begins to crack. Fissures spread rapidly under the fuselage. As soon as they land, the pilots warn them to leave immediately. So they scramble out of the plane and run toward the riverbank just as the ice beneath the plane shatters, swallowing the aircraft into the freezing water. The group, now including the pilots, continues on foot. They encounter other survivors and locals who have gathered near a camel stable. With no cars working in the cold, they mount the camels and continue their journey across the frozen dunes. They reach an area that looks like a range of snowy hills. Dylan, always curious, spots something strange ahead. He yells to his dad and runs toward it. He climbs up a steep, icy slope. What they don't realize is that they are standing on top of the Great Pyramids, now buried almost completely in snow and ice. Dylan reaches the edge of the structure and slips. He tumbles down the steep, slick side of the pyramid, sliding hundreds of feet toward the bottom. Jack, terrified for his son, slides down after him. The rest of the group follows, sliding uncontrollably down the massive monument. They crash at the bottom. Fortunately, the thick snow cushions their fall, and they survive without major injuries. But now they are at the base of the pyramid, surrounded by an endless white wasteland. Hope seems lost again, until they spot headlights in the distance. A convoy of trucks is moving across the ice. The group screams for help, waving their arms. One of the survivors fires a flare gun. The bright red light cuts through the storm, catching the attention of the lead truck. The trucks stop. The driver are hesitant to pick up civilians, claiming they are on a specific mission and that the storm will pass soon. But Jack and the group pled desperately. Eventually, the drivers agree to take them to their temporary base camp. At the camp, the situation is grim. The tents are thin and unheated. There is barely any food. Jack realizes this camp is a death trap. He goes to the officer in charge and argues that the temperature is going to drop even further. He insists they need to take the vehicles and evacuate immediately to a more secure location. The officer refuses. Confident that they can ride out the storm, suddenly, a massive earthquake strikes. The ground splits. Barrels of kerosene overturn and ignite, setting the tents on fire. Chaos erupts. After the earthquake, Jack seizes the moment. He gathers everyone he can, his family, Tariq, and other survivors. He shouts that they must leave now or they will die. He points to the trucks. Many of the survivors, seeing the destruction of the camp, decide to follow Jack. They pile into the trucks and flee the burning camp. However, some, including the stubborn officer, refuse to leave and stay behind. The convoy drives through the blizzard, but the weather escalates again. The sky turns dark, and massive hailstones begin to fall. These aren't normal hailstones. They are the size of boulders. They smash into the ground like artillery fire. The trucks swerve to avoid the ice bombs. The survivors who stayed behind at the camp are likely decimated. Jack's convoy takes heavy damage. One truck gets hit directly, flipping over and blocking the path. The vehicles behind it crash into the wreckage. The convoy is disabled. Jack and his family crawl out of their damaged truck. They transfer to the few remaining functional cars and push forward, halfway to their destination. They stop to check their map, and they see that they need to cross a mountain range to get to safety. But as they are about to go there, Jackson shows his father that they are on a dead end, a sheer cliff. So to continue, they have to go down. They use the winch cable from the front of the truck to rappel down the cliff face. One by one, they lower themselves. It goes smoothly until it is Amber's turn. The ground at the top of the cliff is icy and unstable. As she descends, the truck begins to slide. The brakes fail. Amber manages to reach the bottom safely, but the truck goes over the edge. It plummets down the cliff, crashing directly onto a waiting aircraft officer who is helping them at the bottom. He is killed instantly. The group is now split. Jack, his family, and some survivors are at the bottom. But Dylan and Diane are still stuck at the top of the cliff with the others. The group at the top finds another path down and eventually reunites with Jack. They cram into the remaining vehicles and drive on. They reach a massive hydroelectric dam. The road across it is blocked by debris, so they have to stop. They get out to assess the situation. While they are discussing their route, another earthquake hits. The force of the quake cracks the concrete of the dam. The massive structure begins to crumble. At first, no water comes out. The group laughs in relief, realizing the water behind the dam is frozen solid. But their relief is short-lived. A deep, rumbling sound vibrates through the air. The ice wall, holding back the reservoir, begins to crack, so the group scrambles toward higher ground immediately. The ice wall shatters, and a torrent of water and ice chunks explodes through the breach. In the chaos of the flood, the family is separated. Jack manages to get to safety, but Diane and Dylan are swept away or cut off, trapped on a precarious ledge of ice surrounded by ice bugs. Once the water settles, Jack frantically searches for them. He spots them in the distance. He navigates the treacherous terrain and manages to pull them to safety. Reunited but exhausted, the survivors continue on foot. They are now walking through a frozen canyon. They come to a section where the wind is howling at hurricane speeds. It creates a vacuum tunnel effect. The group hesitates, afraid to step into the wind tunnel. One member of the group, exhausted and delirious, steps forward, saying, "It's just wind." He walks into the airstream. The wind is so powerful, it lifts him off his feet and flings him into the air. Tossing him away like a rag doll to his death, the group is now trapped. They can't go forward and they can't go back. Diane remembers seeing a cave entrance or spotting it earlier. She suggests they try to find a way through the underground tunnels. They find the cave and enter. It is dark and cold, but at least they are out of the wind. As they walk deeper, Amber stops. She says she feels warm air coming from a side tunnel. Jack and Diane are skeptical. They think she is imagining it due to hypothermia. But Amber is insistent. She runs down the tunnel. Jack and Diane have no choice but to follow her. They reach an underground waterfall. The water is flowing, not frozen. It leads to an opening. But in the confusion of the dark tunnels, they realize Dylan is missing again. He has wandered off. They follow the flow of the water, which leads them to an exit. They emerge from the cave into the open air. They are now on the other side of the storm front. The air is still cold, but it isn't deadly. They frantically search the area for Dylan. Jack, pushed to his physical limit, collapses from exhaustion. As he lies in the ground, rescue team appear on the horizon. Help has finally arrived. Moments later, Dylan emerges from a nearby ridge. He found his own way out. The family runs to him, embracing in tears. They are battered, bruised, and frozen. But they are all alive. The movie ends with the family union, and the climate event seems to be stabilizing. The immediate danger has passed, and they have survived the age of ice. Thanks for watching. If you enjoy this recap, please keep in touch. See you next movie.